look me in the eye and tell me this is not a kangaroo with banana hands. Welcome back to a wonderful review of a wonderful Precure, episode 35, and boy, do we have an episode here! One thing I immediately want to acknowledge that comes up a lot in this episode is the usage of flowers, especially like red and orange flowers framing a lot of the shots. I love the attention to detail. I really like the mood setting it does, as well as just kind of relays the relationship of Satoru and Iroha, since that is the main focus of this episode. We immediately start off with Satoru getting confessed to, which Mans reveals he gets confessed to pretty frequently, which, alright, Satoru, I guess you're super popular. Congratulations. But he was snooped upon by both Yuki and Mayu. I love that Mayu immediately wing-girls the snooping, and she's like, we came here to give you your notebook. And Mayu's like, yeah, your notebook. You forgot your notebook. That's why we followed you up here. Not because we thought it'd be really interesting to watch you get confessed to. These two are beautiful, beautiful. And we get into what kind of escalates most of the episode, which is Iroha's passionate love for Keiji-kun, which immediately destroys Satoru. Satoru is like, who's this Keiji-kun guy? I've known you for quite some time. And she's like, oh, he's just super cool. He's an older man who's very reliable and has a job. Like, oh, okay. I just like the shot because it says go in Mayu's mouth, where she's like, you gotta fight, Satoru! Now's the time! You can't give up! And then we have Nico-sama, who, she's being choice. She's drinking tea. Like, not relevant to most of what's going on, but she's drinking tea, and this is very important because it is. Anyways, moving on. We spy on Keiji-kun, even though everybody was very politely invited to witness this powerhouse of a man that Iroha has described. And against all odds, there actually is a dude. We do have an older man actually there, but he's not what matters. It's Keiji-kun the dog. As we all, like, pretty much no one in the fandom was surprised. Keiji-kun is the dog, and then the owner is Keiichi. And to back up what Iroha mentioned earlier, he is a police dog, and he does police investigations. That's why he's so hardworking and employed, but also a dog. But all of this makes, like, Satoru, he's gotta, like, really unwind. He's like, that was a close one. I almost, like, I almost didn't have Iroha. I almost, like, I lost her to another romantic combatant. And he's all sad to him about it. Also, again, the flowers here, like, they didn't have to frame this with a beautiful wall of red flowers, but, like, the passion is in the air. As well as the moment that, like, Satoru is like, but I really do love Iroha. I'm like, ooh, the pink flowers are here? These pinky magenta-y flowers? Love blooming? Love blooming and the passion? And then I do enjoy that Mayu's like, come on, Satoru, you have to do it. And then Yuki's like, I mean, you're gonna chicken out, buddy. I absolutely adore Yuki in this episode, because one of the things that is the downside to having a larger cast, when you have, like, this one being, technically speaking, 6 main characters, and then 8 if we're going to include Nico-sama and MeyMey. So, I mean, Daifuku is barely part of the 6. He needs more screen time. He's not in this episode in the present day at all, which is offensive. But we don't see a lot of interactions with certain pairings of characters. So we don't really see a lot of Yuki with Satoru. We barely see Daifuku with anybody. But much like, Yuki is one of the least interactables to Satoru because she has a reason to interact with Mayu, and she has a reason to interact with Iroha. And we've seen more and more of her interact with Komugi, but we don't see a lot of this. So I'm glad that this episode is allowing us to see all these different characters interact with Satoru, so we kind of get an idea of how they, like, feel about each other. I also like that Yuki is technically also in on the secret for Satoru having a crush. I think it's nice that there's so many characters that know. Like, one of the things that's just been delightful about this season is that a significant amount of people seem to know the secrets of other people, which is kind of nice. Instead of it just being like, man, this character is really suffering because no one knows what's going on. It's so... I like this better. I really like the amount of knowledge that is around the group. It also doesn't feel like we're going to keep that under wraps either, because it does, as we will see in this episode, we're not keeping Satoru's secret a secret. Especially since immediately after, Nico-sama's like, oh, well, if you're going to tell somebody, you might as well tell me, the elder. And I'm like, oh, I forgot that Nico-sama is, like, really old. I forget that she's like debatably thousands of years old. To which we go to the Nico Garden and have our matchmaking funness where MeyMey is like, oh my god, I see romance happen on the daily in the Nico Garden. Let's all learn about how animals fall in love with each other. And as someone who knows a lot about animals, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Like, you show him what happens with praying mantises and it immediately makes nobody want to be in love anymore. If you know, you know. But then we have the Kirin Swan. Like, I think Satoru was just not putting enough effort into it because the Kirin Swan was giving it her all. She's like, Satoru, this is how we do love. This is how you get a partner! And then we have the kangaroo one, which I actually don't know much about. I guess this is one of those, like, they show off their skill kind of deal. But also I think this is just foreshadowing for the rest of the episode. And then there's this whole bit with MeyMey, where MeyMey's like, wait a second. Satoru has feelings for Iroha and he never told me, his -- buddy. We have a bromance here. We have a bad bromance. But all this leads into a flashback. Where we understand how Satoru and Iroha met. Well, it's Daifuku. You know, he may not be in the present day, but he'll be in the flashback. So, Daifuku, I assume, they don't go into super details, but I assume that Daifuku was like an injured rabbit on the side of the road that Satoru had picked up and brought to the clinic, in which he's like stressing out about this rabbit's well-being, and Iroha, being like the good being that she is, he's like, Daifuku will be fine, everything will be good, and all that. Just kind of like cheering him up. And these guys just look so cute when they're kids. They're just so adorable. They are adorable children. Ah! And then he gets Daifuku and he holds Daifuku for the first time. This whole thing's so cute. It's so cute and adorable. And I just think of flashback. This is why we have flashbacks. We don't just sit there and be like, oh, this happened in the past. This is why we have flashbacks. I want the flashbacks. And then you have this little shot of, like, the moment Satoru fell in love with Iroha, which is precious. It's so cute. And also, it's really well drawn. Like, I was not expecting this episode to go so hard in the art department, but both design-wise and then later on in the animation area, there's just some really good moments. Like, there's just some good, like, it's not in the sense of, like, really strong fight scenes or anything, but just any of the emotions in this episode are done so well, and I really appreciate them putting effort into this. And also just, again, going back to the flower iconography, we have, like, Satoru's moment of being in love and, like, love blooming, which is just like, oh my god, it's so pretty. And we also learned one thing about his character, which also was phenomenal, which his obsession with animals and his, like, desire to know all these facts came from Iroha, because Iroha actually sat there and did basically what Satoru has been doing the whole season, which is explained why Daifuku is a floppy-eared bunny and why the ears can go down and up. And Satoru's like, oh, I like that. I'm gonna do that. I want to be that kind of person. And so he it's really cute. He ended up being the guy he is because of Iroha, which is so sweet. And then they just, like, end this whole flashback sequence with a little bit of, like, that watercolor pastel kind of image, which just feels so full circle. I just love it. The art's so good this episode. And Mayu ends up saying the worst thing to Satu, which is what you just gotta logic your love. And he's like, I can do that. I can think. The numbers are just, like, all coming off him right now. 1 + 2 = I love Iroha. It's happening. Well, poor MeyMey's like, no, buddy, don't do it. And then we switch over to our fight of the episode. We have a Nico Garden animal be the kangaroo, which, interestingly enough, because we had the 2 kangaroos from before in the Nico Garden, but I guess they were missing a member. Nonetheless, that's going to be our monster of the week. And I just gotta bring it up. This new form of the Garu, that's the Gaogun situation, where they have, like, the yellow things. I get that it's supposed to be Torame's, like, signature, like, color and, like, the bands and everything, but you'd look me in the eye and tell me this is not a kangaroo with banana hands. You tell me this is not a kangaroo with banana hands. I know I ruined your day. But anyway, we have this big impact moment with Iroha, like, trying to save the day because you gotta build up that tension. She gets punched by the kangaroo, who does have a mean left hook, but that does not stop her. At the end of the day, she wants to save the animals, and she says, like, this really powerful line that hits a little too hard, where she's like, the animal is suffering more than me, which, oof, that was well delivered. That was impactful. And we have Satoru, who's, like, panicked for her, really worried about her, but, like, this is what he loves about her. This is the passion that he's so respectful, and he pulls himself together. Ultimately, she leads the kangaroo a particular direction where it's like, kangaroos can't go back, like, they can't hop backwards, but they're capable of going in a serpentine route. But we have this cool impact, like, this scene where she's chasing him, and Satoru's like, I believe in her, but I'm also worried, and it's really sweet, like, cute, and it's really well animated. But it has to be said, my boy cannot run to save his life. He'd run in a straight line, my man. You, like, his cardio has been getting better. Like, that's the real character development, is Satoru's cardio. But man cannot run in a straight line. And then ultimately the kangaroo hops into the net, which looks like its mother, ? And then we're done, and I'm like, I guess, sure, good job, team. I think this was a little confusion for me, but we did it. Yay! Animal defeated. Returned to Nico Garden. Nice. And then we had the long-awaited confession scene, where Satoru has lined it up. He's gonna say his feelings with a very large audience watching, which is kind of hilarious. Nico-sama, you had one job. Miss Ma'am knew, like, she got the no talking sign all up on MeyMey. She knew what she needed to do. Here, you should have kept doing that, Miss Ma'am. You should have kept doing that. Where everybody's like, ha ha ha, Satoru gave up. He's like, oh yeah, just, you know, we had a good day. It was a good team. Good team. And then Daifuku had to, and MeyMey had to go and open his mouth. I cannot believe MeyMey ruined the confession. I cannot believe it. I cannot. Also, just the expressions here. Like, just taking a second to let it sink in. Mayu is gone. KO'd. Like, the real way to defeat a Precure is to see a confession fumbled. And I can't get over Yuki. Oh my god, Yuki, Miss Ma'am. She's just absolutely dumbfounded. And then Iroha is just like, hey, as it's being put in. And then, oh my god, it should be mentioned, pretty much any background character this entire episode is hilarious, because we're just gonna look at our, like, our dead fish over here, Kamuki, just sitting there like, no thoughts behind those eyes. Miss Ma'am is just like, love? This girl is probably thinking, I love everybody, so I think Satoru also loves, like, well, how is this love any different? Why is everybody acting weird? We all just love each other. We're a big band of loving friends. Satoru. Oh, my poor guy didn't even get to have his confession properly. Next episode, buddy. Next episode. Next episode, you'll have your justice. Next episode, you'll have the confession you deserve. And we end on such a foreboding note. And the next episode looks like it's gonna be so sad. Ooh, I gotta put my 2 cents in here. I am, like, genuinely worried about how the series is gonna handle it. Like, this confession, this whole episode has been phenomenal, but the next episode looks like it's going to be a lot of Iroha trying to process the feelings. And if it were any other franchise, I would be less nervous, but it is the Precure franchise. Ooh, Precure does not like romance. So I'm worried that Iroha is going to hardcore friendzone him. I'm gonna spend the whole episode thinking about it, and she's gonna be like, I think things should stay where they are, because she looks like she's gonna have a time with it. Other thing I don't want to have happen, which might also happen, is I'm gonna try not to name the show, because I feel like it will be spoilers for that show. Mind you, the show is over like 10 years old. But in the, I'm gonna say episode for the sake of hiding the identity of this, there is an entire episode dedicated to the top of the episode a character gets confessed to and spends the entire duration of this longer than average episode being like, I'm just gonna not think about it and I'm gonna have a meltdown and I'm just gonna sit there and be like a doofus for a runtime of 1 hour and 28 minutes of my life of this character just being like, I don't know how to handle that this person has feelings for me, but I'm not gonna think about it. I'm gonna run around town and do errands and be super useless. And then by the end of the episode, when it's all over and the show is no more, I'm going to sit there and tell my love interest who is leaving that I do return their feelings. I hated it. I just don't want that to happen. Like, I get that Iroha.exe is going to stop working next episode, but I'm gonna need her to figure it out in a way that does not make me angry. Like, we're now in my territory. We're in my romance territory. And this, where I have been very lenient in this series with my opinions on stuff, I am harsh when it comes to romance. Do not mess with me and the feelings of love. Nonetheless, I will see you guys next episode. We will all huddle together and brace for whatever happens emotionally to us. But until next time, I'll see you then. Bye-bye!